Hello, I'm Griller65 and welcome back to the shipyard. Today we're going to be digging, diving, and building a trench all the way to where we're going. It's going to be a short but a long one.
Diggy diggy hole, diggy diggy hole, diggy diggy hole.
After my last video, I wanted to actually dig deeper into something that I talked about quite a bit. The difference between a feature and a system. I've previously done a pretty large combat write-up that is currently marked under consideration on the Keen support site, and that got me interested in something. How many of the topics that I talk about in my proposals have already been spoken about by Keen since I wrote it? I originally made that post shortly after Merrick's combat dev blog. I basically took the direction Merrick was talking about, looked at the problems I personally saw with combat in the first game, and then built my own idea of what a larger combat system should look like. A lot of that was influenced by games like From the Depths primarily, and Star Citizen. I know. Taking systems and ideas that I thought worked well in those games and adapting them into something that could make sense within Space Engineers 2. I eventually made a video about the proposal that got some traction, but I always thought the actual write-up was better. I like to write books. And now that that proposal has been under consideration for a while, I wanted to go back and actually investigate it. Quick fourth wall break. Apparently it's in the archive section now, which is interesting. I don't know exactly what that means, and I'm a little scared, but you know what, I have faith, kind of. I have faith. I have faith. Not to see if Keen is secretly building my proposal, but to ask a much more interesting question. How many of the problems and mechanics I talked about are Keen themselves now talking about? So I went digging. I went through the Keen support site, dev logs, planned features, for features currently in development, and most importantly, responses from Keen's community manager to gameplay proposals. And there's a pattern here. Across completely different discussion, Keen keeps using very similar language. Systems, progression, engineering, depth, interaction, counterplay, information, logistics, exploration, and complexity. And these aren't all responses about the same part of the game. In a discussion about guided missiles, Keen specifically talked about combat depth and system interaction. In another discussion, they talked about engineering challenges, resource chains, and infrastructure planning. Elsewhere, they talked about systems depth versus accessibility and meaningful complexity, and creating both structured and open progression experiences. And that's important, because this is exactly what I've been talking about when I say that Space Engineers 2 needs systems instead of just features. A guided missile by itself is just a feature, but a guided missile that needs to detect the target, identify it, track it, engage it, and potentially be countered by point defense, or going behind an asteroid and blocking the signature altogether, along with things like chaff and other countermeasures. Now we're getting close to building a system. That system touches radar and scanning, it touches weapons, it touches automation, it touches ship design. Look at this beautiful borehole! Behold, borehole supremacy! It touches production and ammunition logistics, and potentially it even touches exploration and progression. And the deeper I went into Keen's responses, the more I found the same philosophy appearing in completely different parts of the game. Mining feeds resources, resources feeds production, production feeds construction, construction feeds exploration and combat, and exploration feeds progression. Progression gives you new engineering problems, and all of it feeding back into everything else. Now I want to be very clear about something. Very, very clear. This doesn't mean that every community proposal is coming to Space Engineers 2. It doesn't even mean something marked under consideration is confirmed, let alone mine. And it definitely doesn't mean every system I've proposed in my own videos is secretly being developed by Keen. It would be funny though. It would be funny if a year from now everything that I talked about was in it. There's actually some pretty massive gaps where we don't know what Keen is going to do. But after going through the research, I think we can say something much more interesting. Keen doesn't appear to be simply asking, what features should Space Engineers 2 have? They appear to be asking, How should these features interact? And that's the difference that could fundamentally change what Space Engineer 2 eventually becomes. So over the next several videos, we're going to start breaking these systems apart. We're going to start with combat, go to radar and scanning, go to progression, industry, exploration, and we're going to separate three things: what Keen has confirmed, what Keen is actively working on, and what I think could connect those pieces that are still missing. Because after doing all this research, I think there's a much bigger game being built here than any individual update is showing us, let alone the roadmap. And that's what we're going to talk about. Thank you guys for sticking around to the end. I appreciate it, and you guys have a great one.